Welcome to Econ with Wes. In this video, I am going to explain to you the concept of supply. In this video, I am going to explain to you the definition of supply, the law of supply, and movements along the supply curve. So let's begin with the definition. The definition of supply is the quantity of a product firms are willing and able to sell at a given price. So let's have a look at the diagram and the supply curve. So here we can see that we have the y-axis, which we will label P for price, and the x-axis, which we will label Q for quantity supplied. Now, the supply curve is an upward sloping curve because we start on the left and we draw upwards, okay? So it is an upward sloping curve, and we will label the curve S for supply, S for supply. Now, if the price is currently at P1, and if we just draw a dotted line, hit the supply curve and draw a dotted line going down to the quantity supplied axis, then we will label that QS. So this basically means this diagram is now showing us that at P1, the quantity of a product which firms are willing and able to supply is at QS, quantity supplied. So let's have a look at what would happen if the price of the product was to increase from P1 to P2. Okay, let's draw a dotted line going to the supply curve and our dotted line going down, and let's label that quantity supplied 2 or Q2. So this means at the higher price, okay, there's now been a price increase from P1 to P2. That means that firms are going to be more willing and more able to supply products. So therefore, quantity supplied increases from QS to QS2. And this is because firms are profit maximizing. They try to make, their objective is to maximize their profits. They want to make as much profit as possible. So they're going to be more willing and able to supply products at a higher price, because at the higher price, they're going to be receiving and generating more revenue as a result. And if you remember from a previous video and a future video, that the formula for profit is the total revenue minus the total costs. Therefore, if the firm receives more revenue for selling their products because the price is higher, that means they're going to be more willing and more able to supply more products at the higher price. However, if the price decreased from P1 to P3, this means that the quantity that firms are willing and able to supply to the market will decrease from quantity supplied to quantity supplied free. And this is because firms will be receiving less revenue at P3. So therefore, they're going to be making less profit. So therefore, they're going to be less willing and less able to supply products at a lower price. Okay, let's have a look at movements along the supply curve now. Okay, so if we just go back to a situation where we have P1 Q1, our original situation. Okay, P1 Q1. So here on the supply curve is where we are on the supply curve at P1 Q1, and let's say the price has increased to P2. So now on the supply curve at P2 quantity supplied to, we are here. And if we just draw a line going from one to the other, that would be known as a movement along the supply curve, a movement along the supply curve. And because there has been an increase in the quantity of the product firms are willing and able to supply to the market, this will be an extension in supply. Okay, now, if the price decreased from P1 to P3, quantity supplied will decrease from quantity supplied to quantity supplied free. So we're now going to be at this point here on the supply curve. So here is our movement from P1QS to P3 quantity supplied free. Now this is also a movement along the supply curve, but because the quantity of the product firms are willing and able to supply has decreased from QS to QS3, this means there has been a contraction in supply. Okay, so let's have a look at the law of supply. Okay, so the law of supply states as the price of a product increases, the quantity supplied will decrease. But when the price of a product increases, the firm is going to be more willing and able to supply the product because they want to maximize their profit. Therefore, the quantity supplied, that's a mistake there, let's just say quantity supplied, not demanded, will also increase. Okay, therefore, there is a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. I hope you have a really good understanding of the definition of supply, the law of supply, and also movements along the supply curve. Remember that movements along the supply curve are caused by a change in the price of the product. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Look out for future content videos, and thank you very much for watching.